This is X7. We've got 23 medical device companies, 9 of the 23 international, 5 great homegrown Texas companies, and the rest from all over the country. And these are the companies that you're going to see, the 23 different companies. We had applications of almost 300 applicants for the 23 spots that we selected. It is a very competitive process to get into this program. And again, these companies are coming from all over the world.
My name is Steven Hansen. I'm the CEO of Odin Technologies. What we're developing is a non-invasive device for monitoring tissue perfusion in trauma patients. Sometimes it's difficult for a physician to monitor blood flow when you have internal vascular damage and someone begins to bleed. The Valkyrie is a patch-like device that measures blood flow going through the muscle compartment. And from that, we can provide an objective, non-invasive metric on how much blood and the quality of that blood as it flows through muscle tissue. So a physician can see not just how perfuse a tissue is, but how a patient's symptoms are progressing over time.
Cut it, 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 cut it. Them bricks is way too high, you need to cut it.
Here at Odin Technologies, we are developing the next generation of intelligent wearable devices. What we've noticed is that some complications, such as compartment syndrome, are actually incredibly difficult to diagnose. Now, compartment syndrome is a complication highly associated with trauma. Generally, it's a fracture or a puncture wound to the lower extremity. Now, the lower extremity has 4 muscle compartments. When one of these becomes damaged, it begins to bleed. This bleeding causes an increase in pressure that, if not solved, will begin to crush the veins and arteries within the musculature. The only way to solve this is with an emergency fasciotomy, a highly invasive procedure where the leg is cut open to allow that pressure to release. Now, the only method of diagnosing compartment syndrome currently and effectively is a series of palpation where a physician will palpate the leg to see if there's any tension, and then by taking a 16-gauge needle and dropping it into every single muscle compartment to measure the pressure directly. This procedure is then repeated every half hour for up to multiple days to make sure that nothing changes. This clinical situation is designed to wait for pressure to increase before recommending a patient for an emergency fasciotomy. We see that this draws 2 drastic outcomes. The first of which is that patients aren't getting the treatment they need soon enough. Almost 50% of patients will develop chronic extremity pain. Almost 1 in 5 will develop permanent muscle disability, and 1 in 10 will require an amputation. Now, because these outcomes are so poor, we see that physicians are highly recommending patients for emergency fasciotomies to prevent these from happening. The Department of Defense estimated that up to 85% of emergency fasciotomies that are conducted are unnecessary. This costs hospitals $1.8 billion annually in unnecessary costs and procedures associated with compartment syndrome. Here at Odin Technologies, we believe that these numbers are way too high, and we believe that there is a better method for diagnosing and monitoring acute compartment syndrome. Our solution is the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie is a non-invasive device that is applied directly to the patient as they enter the hospital, and with this device, we can monitor a patient throughout their stay. This allows the physician to diagnose and monitor compartment syndrome earlier. The Valkyrie is embodied as a multi-sensor patch, and when a patient comes into the hospital, the Valkyrie is applied directly to the extremity of the injured patient. Once it is applied to the patient, it immediately begins its diagnostics, monitoring the quantity and the quality of blood flow as it moves through that muscle tissue. So if there is, say, an increase in pressure or a drop in blood flow, the physician will know about this immediately, allowing them to diagnose compartment syndrome earlier and get the patient into the operating room quicker. For this technology, we are currently targeting the 500,000 patients that get lower extremity fractures annually, being the highest risk patients for developing compartment syndrome. We see that this is a smaller portion of the total addressable market that has to deal with total perfusion injuries in the extremity. But even with compartment syndrome as our target market for penetration, we can see that it is effective in other sectors as well, such as diabetic ulcers and monitoring physical therapy to make sure patients are getting the right treatment, and in monitoring peripheral artery disease. All of these could be addressed with just minor adaptations to the core technology. Odin Technologies, since our recent incorporation, has dreamed big, started small, but moved incredibly quickly. We've already gotten 3 letters of intent from major institutions here at the area, including Houston Methodist, the Baylor College of Medicine, and the Harris Health System that are excited about taking this technology and pushing it through clinic. We are currently in a preclinical study with rats with Houston Methodist and are excited to announce that Odin Technologies was recently the 2018 Health Tech Startup Champion for the competition at Insight Accelerator Labs in Chicago. We have a great team that has experience in biomedical engineering, biophotonics, signal processing, business, and law. Our core team is backed by a group of great advisors that have relevant experience in this area that are really excited about bringing this kind of technology out into the market. Today, we are raising $1.25 million in funding so we can capitalize on our letters of intent with those great institutions and to continue our product development. Today, we're also really excited to announce our next generation prototype and look forward to demoing it with you later. We are Odin Technologies, providing you with smarter tools under pressure. Thank you.